So good day, everybody, and I'm very happy to greet you on behalf of the Indian Embassy of Croatia, in which organization this webinar is organized. And we are very happy today to have as our guest Denis Delogu, and he will speak about the modern science and Vedic knowledge. And he will speak about his personal story and journey from illness to the healing of the body and mind. And Denis Delogu, he is best known as the author of the 2015 best-selling book In the Woods. And that book was published in 4 editions and translated into several languages. And combining the modern science and ancient tradition of India, the knowledge of yoga and meditation, and he found his path to physical and spiritual healing, and he recovered from a very severe autoimmune disease. And today he is a very successful business person and in all different fields of life. And also he graduated the archaeology and history in the University of Leicester in Great Britain. And it's a great privilege to have him today to share with us his experience, his life experience, how this ancient knowledge helped him. And I would like to invite our dear ambassador of India in Croatia, His Excellency Raj Srivastava, Kumar Srivastava ji, to address our dear speaker for starting the lecture.
Good afternoon, Yogacharya Meklets. Thank you very much for organizing this session, as you always do every fortnight, more or less. This allows us to interact virtually from the comfort of wherever we are, and still share knowledge and the wisdom which is spread all around the world. And you every time are able to bring a new speaker who has been connected with the similar kind of thought process as we are about finding solutions in traditional systems of medicine, spiritual knowledge, as well as the knowledge of the mankind, which is we need to share. And I'm very happy that you have a special story to be told to us by Denis Delogu, and I'm looking forward to hear it. It sounds very interesting because all of us have stories, and some of them are very important to share, because unless you share, you do not actually improve the knowledge for others' benefit. As we say that we don't have to rediscover the wheel. If somebody can share their own knowledge, it can help those who might be having similar kind of issues or similar kind of anxieties towards unknown, towards kind of issues that we face in lives. So I'm very much interested personally to hear that story, which sounds very, very promising, of a human successful story about how to connect with the consciousness, how to connect with the knowledge and the wisdom that is available in this world, and benefit from it disproportionately, which the normal modern science can believe us to reach. I believe that modern science reaches places where consciousness science have already reached. Till that time, the modern science reaches, it is called magic. So let's hear a magical story from Denis Delogu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And please, Denis, you can start with the presentation with your webinar.
Thank you very much. Before all, I would like to thank Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, for hosting this event. I am very proud to be part of this, and I didn't thought for a second when I was invited. It is a special place for me because I think I owe so much to India, so which I will explain through my personal story. So it's a great place to be, and thank you very much. As for Jadranko, what can I say? I will be grateful to Jadranko for forever. He has been a very important person in my life, and also very happy to see him here. today. Okay, so let's start. I will give you a short overview of what I'm talking today. I hope you see my presentation. So, yes, as the topic said, modern science and ancient knowledge, and it's my personal story about a journey from a diagnosis of a very severe autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis, which I was diagnosed in 2011, and a journey, and I have to say an incredible journey in my life through that position of being completely lost to find myself again and find my way back to heal my body and mind. So, and the concept of this, let's call it a lecture today, is it will be from two parts. In the first part, I will kind of give you an overview and explain you a little bit about my personal story. Then I will, through this, I will explain you why exactly archaeology was one of the main tools to find and regain my health and physical and mental capacities. And I will give you an introduction. We will go far in the past, in a prehistoric era, and I will lead you to this up to the modern era, in order to give a sense and an overview of what really biologically, but not only biologically, even mentally, physically, psychologically, we human beings are. Okay, then we will switch it to the modern era. This first part will be more relying on the scientific issues, because I really want to give you a ground to understand what was my standing point and where I started and why I use it. While in the second part, we will be more talking about the yoga, the connection between the body and mind, and the ancient techniques and knowledge that I was very blessed in my life to meet great people, great teachers who helped me. And we were going to explain a little bit the relationship of stress and frustration, and how such fantastic techniques that we owe, I think the entire humanity owes to India, to safeguarding them, to have this interrupted lineage of maybe 6,000-7,000 years, at least as we know, of interrupted science of the mind, which Mr. Ambassador nicely put it, until we discover it, it's magic. So hopefully I will help you with this magic wand to understand from my experience. Okay, so let's start. My personal story. So from my personal experience, it all started in 2011. Actually, I learned that it started far more sooner, but it's 2011 I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I remember well the day I was diagnosed. It was a very interesting situation, because just by case I was driving around with my friend for work, and my colleague, and he had some back pain, and he said, I will visit the orthopedic, and if you want you can come. You said you have back pain too. And I said, yeah. So after we visited this doctor, which is a genius, and I'm very grateful to him, only with one just with one kick with his hammer, he told me on my knee, when he saw my reflex that was few times faster and overactive than it should be, he told me, you have to do an MRI, a brain scan. And you can imagine my my surprise when I heard that. And I was, yeah, okay, I will. Then for a few days I didn't even think about it. And the third day I thought, maybe I should. I even gave him a call and I said, listen, doctor, do you really think I need a brain scan? He said, yes, please do me a favor, do it. So I did it. And actually what they found on my brain scan was that I had damages on my myelin sheet on my brain's nerves. So what multiple sclerosis is, it's an autoimmune disease where the autoimmune system is attacking itself, and it's attacking our sheet around our myelin, the myelin, which is a sheet around our nerves, who's protecting the nerve. It's like an insulation in an electrical tube, you know. And when this gets damaged, we simply go in a kind of a short circuit, and this means that whatever part of your brain is affected, you will be it will show on your body. So at that point, my situation was something like this, and it's important that I will give you this stepping stone to understand where I was at that point. So I couldn't walk more than 100 meters. I had to walk always close to the walls because I was so unstable. I had all people also thought that I was drunk. It looks like a drunk man walking. I had bladder incontinence. I had stomach ulcers. I had digestion problems, GERD. I had psoriasis for 22 years. I had psoriasis on my elbows, on my ears. So practically I was a mess. It was a mess, but at that time, I was, on the other hand, I was very, very successful in my job. And running around like crazy, disregarding the signals that my body was continuously sending me, warning me, and I just went on and on. So at that point in 2011, I had to stop. For the first time in my life, my body said, that's enough. And I found myself completely lost. My mind was running like crazy. I wanted to find solutions, ask for cures. I did know something about this illness, but not much. And one of the, let's say, the seed of this idea to write a book about it, this experience, of course, when I succeeded, was the first day of my lying in bed in a hospital. I remember very well. I was totally panicked, and I asked a nurse, please, can you give me anything where I can read something about it to understand what it is, what I'm looking in. And she said, yeah, we have a booklet. And she gave me this booklet about multiple sclerosis. It would be better that she didn't, because it was really dry and depressing. So once I embarked this idea to write a book, which was my editor pushed me really and stimulated me to do it. And I asked my friend, what should I write about? And he told me one fantastic advice. He told me, Denis, write a book that you would like to have in your hands when you got diagnosed. And I did, and it did really well. I'm very proud to say this. It did really well. It was of great help to many people, and I hope it will continue. So this is kind of my personal story behind this, let's say, science. So let's go a little bit further on. I will talk to you about how I started, how the journey started. The journey started that my wife spent nights and nights searching the internet. I continued to work. I never stopped. I was going directly from the from my treatment. I was going directly to my job. I didn't have the courage to stop. That was the real point. But in a way, it was also a good decision. In that condition, it was better for me to be active, as with all my problems that I had. But it was better to be active than to stop down. So my wife took kind of this weight on herself also, and she first encountered a great American doctor, which is the Dr. Terry Walls. And she had a similar story, only she was in far more worse situation than I was. And her story of recovery gave me the first glimpse of hope. What was important in that point is that I learned something that for me was a fantastic journey for the next 6-7 years. She first mentioned this paleo concept. probably many of you already heard about that. Today it's very well known, but at that era, nobody really know about what paleo diet, paleo lifestyles are. Of course, I'm an archaeologist, and I connected directly paleo with Paleolithic and archaeology, prehistory, and so forth. So I was interested from the start. And once I started this journey, the discovery for me was absolutely incredible. I learned more about my body, about my mind, than I ever did in my life, creating a situation where this illness that I got was a great teacher to me. So I will lead you now through this story of what paleo in reality is. So this is a very funny picture, which I always like to when I keep in my lectures to emphasize, because it kind of shows sometimes, not always. I think human beings are progressive, but sometimes we find ourselves in the same position of many millions years ago. So why paleo? It's a very good question, because we are talking about our original blueprint. Paleolithic is a cultural era. It means the era when we used stone tools. Better to use maybe the Pleistocene, which is the geological era of our Earth, or better known as the Ice Age. We live today in a Holocene, which started around 12,000 years ago, the warmer climate, which gave the right conditions for our civilization to rise. But in those times, our planet was a very cold place. Northern Europe and Northern America, South America, even as parts of Australia, were covered under sheets of ice, which were thick around 300 meters. So the entire, can you imagine, the Great Britain didn't even exist. It was completely covered with ice, very, very thick ice. And it was like this for millions of years. In the last glacial maximum, that was around 120,000 years ago, the summers were cooler for 6 degrees than today, and the winter 8 degrees than today. If we speak about global warming today and 1% of 1 degree of difference, I think then you can understand what it meant then. It meant that the entire planet was very arid, without water. The huge amounts of water were captured in the northern and southern hemisphere, while the equatorial part of the Earth was very, very arid, very cold. The summers were very, very, very short, maybe 45, 60 days. So why I'm saying this and what this has to do with anything, it's the environmental pressure that creates our humankind. What this means, I call these guys my evolution soccer team. It's a joke. I'm a big soccer fan, so I like to do it in that way. So let's start, and you see this is the history, as far as we know today, of the humankind species ancestor. Okay, 3 or 4 million years ago, we have this ape-like ancestors like Australopithecus and so forth. But somewhere around 2.5 million ago, we developed in the first hominid species. This means our direct ancestors. And we started from Homo habilis, meaning a capable man. He was first to use tools. Then Homo erectus came, which was the first fully erected human being, and so forth. The Neanderthals were not our direct ancestors, but they were our contemporaries. So what is common to all these ancestors is that they all developed in the very similar climate. Okay. And Homo sapiens, there is also Homo sapiens, developed only around 120,000 years ago. If you look at the time range, the span of 3 million or 4 million years, we came in the last few percent. If you count it in a day, in a 24-hour, only in this part of the hominid species, we came, let's say, last 10 minutes. What is even more interesting, all of them, for all these millions of years, were hunter-gatherers. They were hunting, they were gathering food, they were never sedentary, they were always walking. Some researchers said that people in that time walked around 20 kilometers per day. So you can imagine, if you are walking 20 kilometers per day, you have no possession, because there is nothing you can carry for 24 million, for 20 kilometers per day. So they were pretty egalitarian, they were moving, using resources, and so forth. And then suddenly, the Holocene came, 12,000 years ago. And the biggest change of in human history up to today happened. We started to live in a sedentary way, meaning that we became farmers. After millions of years of evolution, we became farmers because the climate changed. But what is important in this issue is very important to understand that our blueprint still didn't change. For any evolutionary change, genetic change to happen, scientists say it's at least around 30 to 40,000 years necessary to make a small genetic change. So this means that we are genetically identical, completely identical to our ancestors who were living, let's say, 50,000 years ago. This means that we have a very old car to drive. But with the change that happens in the Holocene, we shift to something very different. We shifted to sedentary way of life. We changed completely our diet, we changed our lifestyles. And just to explain you how this important is, I will show it with this next slide. This is a very interesting hypothesis made by Peter Wheeler and Leslie Aiello, the expensive tissue hypothesis. Their research showed that the volume of a brain, as it increased through time, was parallelly going with the decreasing of the length of our intestines. Why is this important? It's very important for a simple reason that the scientists discovered that as our brain got bigger, our intestine got smaller, because we started to use only high efficient foods, packed with nutrients and low in any kind of the anti-nutrients. Okay. Some analysis showed that in the last glacial maximum, over 50% of our food consists from proteins and fats. Human beings were, without any doubt, omnivorous. They were using, as well as animal sources, as plant sources. This is very important to say, not because I'm supporting meat eating or something, on contrary of that, but it's very important to understand our blueprint. And there is a great population of people who are vegetarian or vegan, which is fantastic. But there are very small amount of people who actually know to be a vegetarian. As I often discuss with my friends, being a vegetarian is not eating meat, it's something more. You have to understand what you should eat. And for example, the Ayurvedic science is fantastic in this sense, but we Westerners, we are not well educated in how to be a vegetarian. This is something that we can really learn from India also. So what did that mean? So the first capable hominid ancestor was Homo habilis, and you can see in this curve that from this point, from him, our brain size skyrocketed. Why? Because he used tools, but not because tools were so enhanced to him, so he developed because he was, let's say, playing an app today. No, it was because with the tools he could finally scavenge, broke bone marrows, which were highly nutritional, and simply get more effective. And we came to our size that today. So it's skyrocketed there. And what it's showing how important diet is in our well-being. It's extremely important. And you will find many doctors in Europe today that for many diseases will say, diet doesn't change, same thing, this is because of that or that. I simply cannot accept this. I think whatever we eat, it's a building block. How we build ourselves. I'm working in construction sector, and this is, if someone came and told me it's really not important what kind of material you are using for building your house, this is impossible. So this is the first thing I learned. So now I knew, okay, these are the guys that were our ancestors. This is my blueprint. So how can I be a caveman in the middle of 21st century in Europe? And that was actually a very good question. Well, in order to understand and where this idea came from, I remember my doctor saying in one visit, I asked her, can you tell me, what is this multiple sclerosis? Where is it coming from? It has to have some kind of a history. And she told me, we don't know. It belongs to the family of diseases of the modern age. This was the first time I really asked myself about this topic. So what is the modern age, modern era? What is it? And from this study that I was explaining, now I learned what it is not. So let's try to understand what was the cognitive aspect of our ancestor. This beautiful painting found in the cave in Argentina, and it's dated around 10,000 years ago, called La Cueva de las Manos, the hand cave. Can you see this beautiful community that you can see in this cave? These people were not only using natural foods that they could find around, they were really, really connected to the nature. They were really, really connected in the society. There is a theory of the chain operatoria, which was conducted to understand how they made stone tools, but not only stone tools, but how they were involved in everyday life. And archaeological, I will not go in depth to that, archaeological evidence shows that each and every individual had a responsibility. So it felt useful. It was a part of something bigger. And as a great American anthropologist said, the biggest happening in human history is the first healed breakage of a thigh bone. And I asked myself, why was that so important? And her explanation was fantastic, because it was the first time there is no animal on this planet who can survive for a long period if she breaks her leg. It will fall down as a prey to a predator, or will die of an infection, famine, and so forth. The first healed breakage of a leg was an evidence that somebody took care about this guy. And that meant that we passed on another level of existence and started to develop societies. So this modern era, what is it? What are the physical and cognitive features of our society? Well, for sure, we're living in an extremely, extremely different way that our ancestors did. We don't move 20 kilometers per day. We are not even closely connected to the nature as they were. We were more aligned from one another than they were. We live in a pretty artificial world of artificial lights, artificial sounds, artificial foods, and so forth. So what happened, and I just wanted to show you how important this issue is. The next slide, from a great study that was made in Princeton University in 2000, the skeleton aerial closet, it was called. They followed this site where on the same place, they have a continuity of life of, I think it was around 20,000 years. So hunter-gatherers were living there, and many, many years later, farmers. When they excavated skeletons from hunter-gatherers and farmers and compared them, they got an incredible result. By switching to cereals, dental health and bone structure significantly declined. Joint diseases such as osteoarthritis are due to the heavy hunting were declining, yes, but joint inflammation were on the rise due to the lack of nutrients. What is very important, some studies show that the hunter-gatherers ate around 250 different types of food, while on the same sites, after farming started, this reduced to the maybe 60 or 70 different types of foods. So we were, in terms of calories, we were okay, but we were down in terms of nutrients. Our modern food today, full of sugar, additive, pesticide, herbicide, you name it, you know it, how it goes. Our mindfulness today is robbed by different kinds of infotainment, social media, TV, internet news, stress, frustration, and I was in that all. I was in that all. In the period when I was very, very sick, I was totally it. No? Another great jump happened in 1973, when the Food and Drug U.S. Food and Drug Administration recommended a diet rich in carbs and low in fats. This was a total health disaster. This table shows the sugar consumption in UK in the beginning of the 18th century. It was 1.5 kilo per person a year. Today it goes up to 60 kilo person per year. We are not designed to live in that way. Our body cannot digest foods that it never seen in a huge quantities, especially sugar, which then correlates with diabetes, with other autoimmune diseases. As you can see, there is a direct connection between sugar consumption, autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer, Parkinson's, and all kinds of different diseases of modern age diseases. So I would say we finished with our first part of discussion. If anybody has any question, I will be happy to answer it. So feel free to join. If not, we will continue. I hope you liked this part, because it's a really short overview. Usually my lectures were around 2 hours and I could explain in detail, but I think I managed to give you just an important stepping stone to understand this story. So where I was discovering all this. So what I did, I decided to follow this lead and to become kind of a caveman. So I threw out all the processed food. I didn't eat anything that has seen a factory. I ate a lot of huge amounts of vegetable. I ate small amounts of meat, and I ate and I didn't drink any sodas, any used sweeteners, or nothing. I eliminated also grains like gluten. And what happened to me, you remember the symptoms that I was describing before, a revolution, and I'm talking about a few weeks. In the next 4 weeks, first time in 22 years, the psoriasis went off of my body, and it never came back. In 4 weeks, I started to walk straight. I didn't have to hold the walls anymore. My digestion completely recovered. In 2 months, I think, I found myself with my kids and friend in Gorski Kotar, a beautiful region of Croatia, mountainous region, in a winter. And we followed the kids who were skiing or something like that. And a friend asked me, "You want to go up to the top?" And I told him, it's 1 meter of snow. It's like 4 or 5 hour walk. He said, "Yeah, what's the problem?" And I said, "Yeah, what's the problem?" And I did it. This, in 8 weeks, 7, 8 weeks, for me was so incredible that I really, really could not believe. I was so grateful. I started to play soccer with my kids again. It was really a rebirth. However, I still was not so perfectly feeling well. I struggled with anxiety, with depression, I had panic attacks. I still wasn't quite where I thought I could be. I got a huge mental clarity once I eliminated the toxins that were disturbing physically my body. And so I met my dear friend Jadranko. A friend of mine told me, "Listen, I know a guy, he can teach you some meditation." And I said, I was a yuppie of the age, and I said, "Oh, please, come on, not meditation." He said, "Try it. It worked for me fantastically." I said, "Okay." I was enough desperate to be open-minded. So when I met Jadranko for the first time, and he gave me this introduction and an explanation, basic of meditation, I kind of connected right away, and I followed his advice to the word. Same as eliminating toxins physically from my body, meditation had the same effect. Suddenly, I started to feel more stable, more happy, more willing to engage with people. And I said, it must be it. I didn't do anything else. So I wanted to enhance this experience, and I said, I want to join you in yoga also. So you can imagine after my symptoms how my body was. It was really, really wrecked and not easy to recover. But once I started doing yoga, combining it with meditation and the practice, it was incredible. It was really, really incredible. I was never, it was like opening the doors of a very old building. Suddenly the fresh air came in. I was so agile. I was so willing to move, to go out, to use my body. And it was the first time I learned that this dichotomy that was opposed by word philosophy was actually a wrong concept, and that the division of body and mind in a way that doesn't exist. No? So this body and mind dichotomy is something that we created. Is the old Descartes theory, cogito ergo sum. From that, I think then I am. From that, simply from that point, most of the philosophy and science developed in the materialistic way and separated our mind from our body in a way. And thanks to India and its great tradition, it's coming back big time, because I think today we have many scientists involved in trying to prove and understand the Vedic wisdom. There are traditions in India that are, amazing, like Hinduist, Buddhist tradition originated there, and it's fantastic what India has to offer to the humanity today. So I followed that lead because I knew it was not contrary to anything that our modern science is saying today. Once we always were talking, but once you're born, the brain is that what it is. You have certain numbers of cells that will decrease with time. That's it. Today we know that this was an absolutely wrong assumption. Today we know that our brain has a capacity of neuroplasticity, which means it will develop those connections that you are supporting and will cut those that you're not using. So in using the these ancient Indian techniques in create our own brain in a way that we really wanted was something fantastic for me, and I really wanted to do it. So I really intensely practiced and yoga and meditation. Later on, I got engaged in other different Buddhist traditions, but I continued to do what I found that it was so helpful for me. And there is a history to that. Someone of you know, maybe this is a seal of a Harappan society. It was the first known image of a man sitting in a yogic posture, and they dated it somewhere around, it was found in Mohenjo-Daro, which was one of the important sites of the Harappan civilization, which was huge, by the way, from the Himalayas all to Afghanistan and to South India, the biggest Asian civilization actually in the world, bigger than Egypt, bigger than Mesopotamia, and even sooner than them. Not many people know about this, but this is an extraordinary civilization, which was egalitarian, and it was so standardized that even today we don't understand how they did it. So we certainly do know that there is a tradition, at least, and these are pre-Aryans in their time. So we are talking about at least 6, maybe even 7,000 years of continuity of science of yoga. So I think we should really rely on it and understand it. And as Mr. Ambassador greatly said, it's the magic that will reveal itself. And we did reveal so many incredible knowledge that it brought. Once I was lying on my couch in my living room, and I have a statue of Buddha, and I have a statue of the thinker made by Auguste Rodin. And it was so funny. They were close to each other. And I said, oh, that has to be the difference between East and West. They are both seeking the same thing, knowledge. But while our thinker is so really kind of stressed and anguished and really want to reach the end, Buddha was doing it in another way. But actually, these are not opposite sides. And I think what we are seeing today, that the great thinker and philosophers and scientists all around the world are meeting this idea of expanded knowledge, expanded consciousness, that finally today it's getting its best for it. So I said, okay, this guy, the thinker, seems kind of stressed. I want to be more like this other guy, smiling, calm. So what should I do? I should, first of all, try to reason with my stress levels. So I want to talk to you a little bit about stress. I think we are still on time. Stress and frustrations are two completely different things. Very similar, but different. Our ancestor suffers from stress. If he has coming home from his daily work and goes to the cave, a tiger attacks him. So how would he feel? Well, he would immediately enter in the flight or fight mode, which means that he would be high in adrenaline, which would pump his blood to the extremities, hands, feet, in order to give him possibility to fight. It will stop down his digestion, because you don't need to digest if you're attacked by a tiger. It's not a crucial thing. Our frontal cortex gets shut down. There is no time for analysis. Is he maybe friendly? Maybe that doesn't work with the tiger. So we go back to our back brain, the old reptile brain, who is all about reaction. Okay. Our cortisol will go up. It will increase production of sugar in our liver, so it can give us energy for that. But what is very important, this fight could last, how long? 10, 15 seconds? In 10, 15 seconds, or there are 3 scenarios. Or you kill the tiger, so you are the absolute king of the moment, or you manage to escape, which is good, or your dinner. There are no other solutions. So whatever the scenario is, of course, except the one if you are at dinner, you will get a dopamine release. It plays a role in many important body functions, but the most important is that it's make part of a pleasurable reward, which, by the way, if you remember, I'll talk about sugars and stuff. It's stealen by that. There is a high addiction on sugar, higher than on cocaine. Uppsala University of Sweden made a test. They had rats, which they made it addicted of cocaine and sugar, let them for a few days, opened the cage, they made a pile of cocaine and made one pile of sugar, they all went to sugar. This is what sugar is doing to our brain. It's stealing our attention, because it uses different pathways, especially this dopamine pathway. So what is with us today? I have a mortgage on my house for 20 years. That's not stress. This is not 50 seconds. This is frustration for 20 years. I know the tiger is always there sending me, reminding me, and I know that I have to pay my bills. This is frustration. We are not designed to carry it so far away. We are designed to have peaks and then to go down, to decompensate from that, to clean ourselves from that. But I couldn't do it. I was in a constant stress. What meditation and yoga gave me, I literally balanced my hormones. I finally got in a position that I wasn't so responsive to these stresses. We don't have time. I could talk you another hour only about how this affects our immune systems, how it affects our moods. You know, hormones are the cocktails of our emotions. Each and every emotion has its hormone cocktail. So we can play with that, but not from the position of strict modern science. It didn't get there still. It's still the magic to uncover. There are great breakthroughs, but I think combining great knowledges and modern sciences with what we can learn from the ancient Vedic sites, ancient traditions of India, not only Vedic, but are fantastic. India is a source of humanity. This is a country of more than 100 different languages, different nationalities, but they managed to hold this tradition. It means it works. It's impossible that it doesn't work. It works, and in my case, it was one. Often people ask me, okay, so what do you think was the most important thing to use to heal yourself? I said, I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. Was it this change that I made in my diet? Was it I mean, it was a combination, and it wouldn't be so everlasting and working if it were not combined. So at the end of this panel, I would just like you to show you a few slides that I made to emphasize how important our history is, and yeah, I can say maybe where we are making mistakes today, in a sense that we forgot how to be human beings in biological and social terms. Of course, I'm generalizing, not everyone, not always, but you will recognize it. So this is how people socialized in the past. This is how we do it today. This was how people were mindful in the past, connected with the nature. This is how we do it today. This is how we went to shopping. This is how we are doing today. I will say we should reset a little bit. Thank you very much. And I'm open to questions. If anybody wants to ask questions, I will be more than delighted to answer. Please feel free. It's really okay.
Yes, dear Denis, thank you very much for a beautiful presentation. And it was showing that you took the stand in your life, not as accepting yourself as being the victim of the circumstances, but to be a researcher and to be someone who is fully awake and trying to find answers. And this is very important, that in the life we try to find answers ourselves, for us, and research and try, and then everybody will success to find proper answer for himself. So don't look and depend too much on others, trying to see that others solve your problems and that they give you the answers what you are looking for, but search yourself. And you are the great example of that, and you had great success. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind words. This is absolutely, this was the main point I got involved in all of this. And the main point why I shared a very intimate story, which was not easy for me, you know, and it still isn't, but I shared it because I really understood what it means and how easy you can take the situation in your hands. Because there, after this experience, there is nothing impossible for me anymore in this world, really nothing. Not because now I am a fanatic. It's simple. I saw that something that was declared as uncurable, end of story, it's only a matter of time, I managed to find a way. And there are great people. I mean, it's not my way. I used what other people researched. It's really fantastic. So yes, in these situations, and I know many people suffer. I worked with hundreds or even 1,000 people.
Yes, and we can all together always be grateful to India, because many of those answers are lying there in that ancient wisdom which India was protecting thousands and thousands of years. And I feel everybody, me and many thousands of people, they got inspiration and from that ancient knowledge of yoga, and start searching and finding the answers in their circumstances of living where they are and related to their life conditions. So we thank to Raj Kumar Srivastavaji for
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
representing the India here, and we would like that he give us his final conclusion.
Thank you for a wonderful session. It was really very interesting and I would say eye-opening for people who would listen now and through the recorded video later, about the experience of Denis, about how he has gone through a very seemingly impossible situation to come to a solution where he himself said that he had a rebirth. And I think this is very important because it is said that in karma theory of India, that you have to go through the baggage of the karma that you have created for yourself. But then there is also a very important lesson that you don't have to actually go through the karma by mathematical way. There is a way to drop all your karma in one instance if you know the key. And probably you found your key to drop the karma instantly. And this is a very good example of how we can do in life, not going through the usual path of going through the slog, but you can actually discover. And in a way, you showed the picture of Gautam Buddha. And enlightenment is exactly this, that the day you get enlightened, and this does not mean enlightenment in a spiritual sense, I mean in any sense of any field. Enlightenment, when it happens, people progress exponentially. in whatever field they are working in. And that exponential progress comes from this sudden jump when they cross that plateau. And that plateau crossing can happen depending upon how you are blessed, and that also comes from the atmosphere, from the environment. For you, for example, you mentioned meeting with Yadranko was an example, or was a circumstance that was probably one of the triggering points. But it could happen with anybody's life. And your example is an inspirational kind of model for people who are listening, that don't be in a despair. Other people have enjoyed this kind of possibility, and you can also do it. First of all, you need to have faith in yourself that the light inside you is as powerful as the supreme power who runs this universe. And that knowledge and feeling is itself so empowering that nobody else can be telling you what to do. But that should not be coming with a sense of ego, but the sense of humbleness, humility, that we all are similar people coming from the same light source. And with that knowledge, I think you can actually find solutions in every field. So for me, for example, I was reading this book, The Karma, Finding Your Own Destiny, or Taking Your Destiny in Your Hand by Sadhguru. And there is a mention about this thing that there are 3 parts of yoga: action, awareness, and abandonment. So you need to be vibrant and relaxed. You need to be taking action. You need to be having awareness about what's happening around you, what's the real truth as far as you can know. And finally, abandonment. And I think abandonment meaning that drop your ego, try to find the commonality. We are all similar people, but not uniform people. And this is also, when we're talking about India, I think one of the key strengths of India as a nation for so many civilizational years behind us is basically that we respect the diversity. We respect the differences, that each one of us are different. And that respect towards diversity is the strength of India. And I think that's the strength of the universe, that we are expanding, we are diverse, we allow to dialogue without having that kind of debate which goes into arguments. It needs to be respected. So I think with that kind of feeling that there is no difference in one theory or another theory, as long as we respect that diversity. If we start building our identity as a burden on ourselves, like for example, a nation is important, but that national identity should not become so stressed upon you that you become enemy to all other nations. That is where the problem of identity or the education comes in. So I think it was a wonderful session of a personal example of achieving success in terms of from a despair situation to a very positive, happy, optimistic scenario. And I'm sure that we will have time to hear more from you, because today you said that you have kind of abridged session you have presented to us.
Yes,
which created an appetite, but I think main course will come in due course.
I'm more than happy to do so. Thank you for this very kind word.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Whenever you come to Croatia, Zagreb, let's meet up.
I will be more than happy to do.
Where are you currently based?
I'm in Rijeka.
Oh, you are in Rijeka. Okay.
Rijeka. I'm really close, and sometimes I come for work, so it will be.
So let's meet up. Thank you so much for your session, and thank you, Yadranko,
thank you so much,
Dennis, to this session.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, and for being present. And I have a new jump for all of us. On the 8th of September, I organized a new webinar with one of the greatest masters of Malakand, a very ancient traditional way of sport, combining the practice of yoga on the rope. So now Denis jumping on the rope, the next step, next jump. And so this would be a very beautiful presentation about that ancient way how to take care of the physical health and develop, especially for the young people. But that person who is, this is Uday Deshpande, Vishwanath Deshpande. He is the main person in India for that art. So he will be presenting us that art, and also we planned that he's coming in October to Croatia to hold a weekend seminar to make presentation of that art to the public. So thank you very much for everybody for participating, and hope to see you on the 8th of September at the same time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thank you, Jadranko. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.